Ele é considerado uma das maiores vozes da história do metal progressivo, mas hoje Russell Allen nos mostra um lado que o mundo nunca viu. Após anos de silêncio criativo e lutas pessoais contra o luto e o trauma, o vocalista do Symphony X se torna com sua obra mais vulnerável, uma canção dedicada à sua filha e à jornada no espectro autista. Prepare lenço, pois dessa conversa profunda Russell fala sobre o poder da cura através da música, suas raízes inesperadas do country e a importância de quebrar o estigma da masculinidade durona no metal. Uma entrevista essencial para fãs de música e, acima de tudo, para qualquer pai ou mãe. Com vocês, Russell Allen. First of all, thank you for being here. And I've noticed that your career has been lately involved into a multifaceted journey, like blending virtuosity of Symphony X with recent acoustic sensitivity. How do you feel to be like a technical benchmark for vocalists worldwide for so many decades?
Oh man, I'm very honored that they view me in such high regard. I just I don't know how they feel that way, because I think there's so many people that can sing way better than me. But I appreciate the accolade. But I'm just doing my thing, and just trying to be the best version of myself I can be, and I'm happy that people look at what I do and recognize the I guess the honesty of it. I think that's what really shows through, and people can pick up some things from me as singers and stuff. That's great. I've done some clinic stuff in the past. I've never really kind of went down that rabbit hole. I'm not. I guess to them, I seem like a very technical singer, but I'm just very blessed to have had the natural ability to do a lot of this stuff. I still learn things, I'm not going to say that I don't from my fellow singers, but to me, it's just all about the songs, and I'm just so happy that people embraced the music that I've been blessed to make all these years.
And it's awesome that you also have time for family, even though you have such a tight agenda regarding not only Symphony X but also other music-related things. And your last song really got me emotional. And I've read a little bit about Love Her Like I Do. It took like several years for you to write.
Yeah.
How did you manage to distill years of personal experience with your daughter into such a direct and vulnerable lyric?
Oh, that was the trick. I had to get to a point where I was comfortable being that vulnerable. I had been through a lot of tragedy in the course of my career, with the loss of my friends David and Janet and NHA too, with the whole adrenaline mob thing, and that really sort of like changed me. As I imagine it would most people who go through an experience like this. So for about 6 years or so, I was really sort of, I wouldn't say in a dark place, but a place of, don't know if I can do this anymore kind of thing. Kind of going through the motions and things like that. Because I wanted to be here. I wanted for my family, like you said. And maybe these other things and these risks were not worth it anymore. So I had a real writer's block, Over that time, though, I was reaching out, trying to like find things that I could express myself with. And this was sort of a part of that sort of therapy, if you will, that healing process of, well, if I'm going to make music again, let me make music that means something to me and to my family, and hopefully to others that are needing to hear it, And so that's kind of how that came about. And that's what I started doing. I mean, this is the first thing I've released originally, and I would say since a decade, maybe. I don't know. Symphony X's last album is almost 10, 11 years old. The Adrenaline Mob ones were before that. So yeah. And of course the solo album was a long time ago. So this is it. This is my step. I'm, back basically. And this sort of message that I'm, sending with this song is kind of my way to kind of get back into that creative space and stuff. But it hurt really bad. I mean, it hurts to see your child go through these types of things. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, dealing with or living with autism. It could just be having a bully at school, just treat your child bad. That the song sort of has a general appeal for people who understand what that is. And so, but every time I can't even listen to it, to be honest with you, because it just breaks me down. But that's what I needed. I needed to be broken down and to feel all of that so I could deal with my own personal pain of the PTSD I was dealing with and everything like that. So that's kind of where I'm at. And so this was a huge step for me to get this out this year after all these years. I would waited a year after the song was done a year ago, recorded, played everything, but I felt like the environment wasn't good, a couple years back, whatever, the whole, the world, the elections and all this other sort of, noise in the world was so loud that I didn't think anyone would care, or listen to it or give it a chance to be heard, because it was such a, I feel, meaningful message to let people know that these people, these kids are special. They're great. They're awesome. They're cool. They're smart. They're just different. And I feel like now was the good time to do that. So that's where kind of the journey all started.
And it breaks my heart as well. And every time I've listened to the song, I had to cry.
Yeah.
And the lyrics are like you mentioned about rainbow tears and her sensory overload. How has music helped you as a father to process and understand the world through Ava's eyes?
I feel like I'm a storyteller, I guess, right? As a bard, if you will, a modern day bard. And so I have always gravitated to trying to, internalize and personalize the experience of the subject matter, even if it was something fantastic, like the Odyssey or something, some things I've done with some of my bands, but to try and find things within there that mean something to me. This was the easiest way to do that because it's a direct observation of my daughter's life, and from a father's perspective. So it wasn't a hard stretch, to try and get there. The hard part was, like you had just mentioned, I'd get through a verse. I couldn't even sing it. I was just already breaking down because I remember the words. I seen the movie, if you will, and now I'm trying to sing it to you, and so there's a massive amount of vulnerability there that I was never able to show before. Call it ego, call it what you will, probably the case. I'm a tough guy, I'm a man, I gotta be strong, I gotta be a father. That's all young man's problems.
Yeah,
As you grow and mature, you change.
yeah. There's a myth when it comes to guys that are into metal that we are not vulnerable, and this is something that has to end. We are more vulnerable than anyone can imagine. This is something I have in mind all the time.
I agree. I mean, I think the metal community, look, I grew up in it. I love it. And I'm still doing it, but all that black and everything and all that kind of stuff that everybody wears, it kind of scares most people away. But when you're in the thick of it, it's a brotherhood, sisterhood. It's a dysfunctional family vibe. Not dysfunctional, but everybody's really pretty nice, I mean, and because when you're with a group of your peers, you might look scary to the outside, but inside you're just really happy to be together and have people around you that understand that you're different. Hence the reason why this song, is coming from maybe a metal guy like me. I'm used to being in a group of people that aren't the pop crowd, that isn't the country crowd, that isn't all these things. We're the outsiders. We're a small slice of that musical pie out there in the world. but we're dedicated and we're loyal and to each other and to the genres that we like within the grand scheme of being in a rock world. And we've been told for how many years now, rock's dead, metal's done. You know, it's like, okay, it's not. It's just different. It's underground here. It's happening over here. It's like, you know, it's still around. And so yeah, this song sort of, you know, it's just like the community. It's different, but it's cool. It's just like these kids and these people are different, but they're really cool. And my daughter's hilarious, you know, but she has social anxiety and struggles. She really doesn't have any friends, and still at this point in her life as a teenager, and that's heartbreaking. And I think
It's heartbreaking.
I think
And
that any yeah.
and the thing that comes with, since I'm touching that again, since we're talking about community, the rock and metal community, which is so much about belonging, can be a powerful tool for inclusion of people on the autism spectrum.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of people that have autism, but did not really understood that they have it. And I have a journalist that is autistic, and he comes to shows and does also reviews. It's interesting that some of them already feel that they belong to this community.
Yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense. I'm just adjusting my camera. Sorry, that makes a
No
lot of
problem.
sense to me. Of course, because I'm in the community and I have an autistic child, you know, and so you know, I had my own personal run-ins with bullies as a kid in school, like we all did, and I'm not saying this like, oh, who, you know, I'm Mr. Hero, but there was maybe this is why God, you know, gave Ava to us, you know, and to me, I guess, to be her dad, because when I was young, I you know, I'm sorry, I get a little emotional. I talk about stuff. I stuck up for a girl who was mentally challenged she, you know, and everybody knew it. And this guy was making fun of her and, you know, just being mean to her, you know, for laughs. And I think if I remember, he might've pushed her down. That was it. This was a guy who was a few grades older than me and that middle school level from 6th to 8th grade. So then that gap is huge. This guy was towering over me, you know. He was the school bully. I just ran right up to him and said, why don't you pick on somebody your own size? I couldn't think of anything cooler to say. I was just a kid. And he just stopped and everyone looked and I was expecting to get a punch in the face or something. Nothing happened. And he was after me and all this other stuff. And, you know, I think it shocked him that somebody stood up for this person who everybody liked to make fun of. And years later, of course, I grew and this particular individual didn't. And so we had our crossing later and he tried to be my friend and, hey man, sorry about that. I was just like, you know, I don't want to talk to you, man. You're not worth my time. Now I told him, get out of here before, you know, something neither of us want happens to you. And so that was it. And I never saw him again after that. But now in life, I feel like, you know, I'm championing, you know, my daughter and people like her, you know, with releasing something like this. I'm not trying to be a hero, man. I'm just a father who's sticking up for his child in a world that doesn't understand them, you know. And I feel like, you know, if this helps open people's hearts, like, you know, you said you cry when you hear it. I get so many wonderful letters, not letters, but, you know, messages. we're in the, you know, the age of technology now. So it's messages and DMs, right, on social media from parents and from people who live with autism and just thanking me and saying, I thank you so much for putting this out, for talking about this. The song means the world to me, blah, blah. And so that's really what it's about. It's really for like the metal community. I want the world to hear it. If it does, whatever, that's great. And you know, but it's really for our community to feel bonded in our you know, in our lives and how we are all, you know, dealing with this and trying to move the ball forward for these people who have the spectrum or on the spectrum, you know. So,
And it's not the first time you do a song about your daughter. You did with Brazilians, Annie. You did a song called "Time for Us to Shine." with a partnership where you wrote the lyrics and you did a collab, you sang on the
Mm-hmm.
song as well. How, is it like, in what way did that partnership help you feel comfortable in a more intimate acoustic setting?
Well, obviously, it was the first time I had done some acoustic stuff with Adrenaline Mob. I played acoustic and stuff with the guys in the band, and we had done a song called "All on the Line," which kind of has
Mm.
references to my daughter as well. And that was kind of the beginning of it. But with Fernando and the Annie stuff, that was a real, like, it's just us, man. This is all this music is. It's not trying to be a acoustic version of a rock song. This is just heart to heart, minimal arrangement and our accompaniment, and it's just talking to people. And so that helped to bring that out in me. That actually, I'll be honest with you, has been there since I was a kid. I grew up in a country music family. My mom and dad are still bluegrass musicians. They kind of transferred into that as I got old. When I was young, I remember my grandfather was a country entertainer. And so that country music background upbringing is, has always been there. I'm just not known for it, and then in school, of course, I was able to audition and make it into our jazz ensemble where I played acoustic guitar, a lot of folk music, Crosby, Stills and Nash, the Mamas and the Papas, Dan Fogelberg, Simon and Garfunkel, all these sort of acts, from the 70s and stuff, 60s. My teachers were into for this sort of thing. So I had cut my teeth, if you will, on that stuff early while I was listening to Van Halen in my car going home from school. Okay. So there was this going on, right? As I was kind of separating from the acoustic country folk thing to being more into rock and heavy metal. And that's kind of where I ended up. But it's always been there. So with the Annie guys, it was an opportunity to kind of go full circle and come back to where I was when I was really young and be okay with that and put that out. And so that helped. I mean, and of course, with this song now, that's been, released just from me, is the logical, I guess, next step of that progression of, okay, I can do this acoustic stuff and it's cool. And I have a great message here. It's something I want to talk about. That's the thing about acoustic songs to me. It's like, when they're sad or emotional or whatever, that seems to be the right thing for them. Not to say you can't have, happy stuff in that medium, but to me, it's the way I can really kind of crack open my black metal heart and, and sort of show the world I'm just a dad, just a dad who loves his kid. And I can try and do what I can to help her and everybody else that connects with it.
This is so cool. And when you think about the future, is this something you will get deep into, or is it just something that this creative energy was there and you had to let it out? Is it something you maybe use on other projects, maybe getting back to Adrenaline Mob or maybe Symphony X?
Well, Symphony X will always have those sort of acoustic moments, but the band really isn't built on it. So it does give me, how could I say? It does give me an access point to a more personalization, even if we're talking about some hero's journey thing or whatever it is the music is. I can kind of maybe draw on what I'm doing here is from a deep emotional point, as long as I can connect with it. That's the thing. This is easy because it's my life and my daughter's life. But about this particular song, again, it's like a seed, right? It's like a seed. I put it out there. I put some water on it, a little bit of love. If other people start putting a bunch of water on it and it starts growing, then then I'll follow that. I'm not going to abandon that. I'm going to continue to help it to grow. To say that I'm going to, just totally change direction going that way, I don't have a plan for that. It's really up to you. It's up to everybody. Do you want more of this? Is this going to grow? Is this something that people want from me? And then, we can cross that bridge when we get there. For now, it is an expression of myself in this moment in time. And I'm very, happy to be able to be this honest, emotionally with people about a very personal thing for me and my family and my child. So, if it takes off or, goes somewhere, I have no problem, doing more of this type of music. I have other things I'd love to talk about, things that I've been through. I mentioned earlier about loss of friends and just some really hard things I've never really sort of dealt with musically. But this is this is the first step to opening that sort of door for me to go there. And so it doesn't have to all be acoustic, but I think it does open the door for me to be more sort of personal, with my music, and not just writing some sort of, story about, some other character, if you will. It's a good thing for me to talk a lot more about my own sort of experiences, personal struggles, and things like that I've kind of carried, all my life. Like I said, tough guy. But I'm at a place now where I'm fine with just, shedding a few tears here and there. And if I can make you shed a few tears, well, then I'm doing something right, so people need to hear it.
You're doing it very right.
Yeah.
It's super. It's heartfelt.
Yeah.
And the last thing I would like to ask you, it's like the final message. What would you say to parents who have just received an autism diagnosis for their child and feel overwhelmed or lost?
I'm so glad you asked this. I really, I really wanted to express to people who have a chance to listen to this interview, and maybe if this song, they find me through this song, to say what our experience was. Early intervention is the most important thing. I can't stress that enough. We were I would say we were a little late to the game, and I was guilty of it a little bit, because I was like, she's just different. She's going to be, but my wife knew something was wrong, and it was about a year and a half, that she was diagnosed, and it was devastating to get that. And I know how these parents are feeling. But the very next thing is to get that early intervention going. We had therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, you name it, coming to our home for 5 hours a day, 25 hours a week, for years there, with her, helping her to kind of develop her nervous system and make these connections. Because in the beginning, she was not verbal and she wouldn't make eye contact and all this. It was very frightening. But as they're developing as infants, that's the point. That's the most important time. You have to get that early intervention therapy going to help when they're, I don't understand how it all works, and they don't understand what all causes it, but they seem to have some really practical approaches to sort of help to bridge these neurological gaps and sort of make this situation as good as it can be. And fortunately for us, our daughter, is highly functioning. She suffers with other things on the spectrum, that are still, challenges for her, and so, it's never gonna go away. That's the reality. Okay. But you can make it to the point where they can they can manage it and have a good life, and be able to function in society, and stuff like that. And there's I can't stress enough, the early intervention gives you a way better chance of that. And, parents don't give up on their kids. So, but a lot of times they just, like you said, overwhelmed, don't know how to approach it. What do I do to help? You gotta get out there, try and find. We were lucky in where I live in the state of New Jersey that we had a system in place that was there for us, to help us, get our child the help that she needed. And that was huge. So I can't stress that enough. Don't wait to get the diagnosis. If you feel something's, maybe a little off, go get it as soon as possible. The earlier you start it, the better chances of the outcome is going to be good. And so, that's the thing. And of course, it's never too late. I mean, you are where you are, but there's always things that you can do to get them, being productive and get them being positive and just, using you're looking at the good, and go with that, and that's kind of what we've been trying to do all these years with our daughter, is just to get her on the, being positive, going on the right path, and just, letting her be her. I mean, she's hilarious. I can't tell you how smart she is. She's like, and so, I'm sure other parents can sit there and say, I love this about my kid. That's just, those are the things you want to bring to the world and build on. And so, but again, I'm going to say it one last time, early intervention, super important.
Well, Russell, thank you so much for your time, for your awesome words. And it was amazing having this interaction with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for taking the time. God bless you. Thank you so much.